I'm so excited to see this play out. Delhi got some huge buffs in the most recent patch, and I love to see what they're capable of, especially with the tier 3 or the Castle Age landmarks both getting cool new techs, and I love seeing that get happen. English also so strong right now. Not at all, what we're used to seeing get played every single game, especially for those of us who were around playing in season 1, but they're in a really good spot right now, and so I'm just excited to see where this game goes. There's so many different avenues it could take, and that excites me. We could see an Abbey of Kings. We could see, a House of Learning. Ah, could be so good.
And it is on our newest map, Dry River, but let's make our introductions just so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. Spawning in on the east side, playing as the English, it is GiveUAnxiety. Who do we have on the west side?
In the West, in the color orange, playing as the Delhi Sultanate, it's Avely, who is actually currently pop capped. That's embarrassing.
How embarrassing. Now, Avely is going to get that house up, but also another thing that's important for both of these players as we're watching this meta develop on Dry River. Again, I'm going to pause it for just a couple seconds just so we don't get any stutters, but Avely is going for a dock on the south side, and I do see, based on the minimap, GUA going for his own English dock in the north.
Oh, very interesting. So, like we alluded to, slightly earlier when we very first jumped on the cast, you can see a lot of different comps come out here on Dry River because you can get a dock, you can go for mills and just shore fish. The great thing about going dock is that it essentially functions as a second town center in the very early game. The problem with doing that is that this pond will dry up real quick, and then this dock is completely useless. So it's a risk, well, not a risk versus reward, but it's a short versus long-term gain choice that you have to make here. And both players going for real short-term investment, trying to make as much food as they can, which I think is probably going to shake up to be, the meta choice here on Dry River, just because having a quote-unquote extra town center, at least for the first 5 minutes, is just so strong.
Yeah, and the dock obviously providing that, and I want to see, just based on for each player, I want to know how many fishing boats they actually make on either side. This dock actually going with manuscript trade, Avely's dock, which is a Delhi specific naval technology. Scholars garrison inside the dock provide 30% faster production speed and contribute to global research. So he can go ahead, plop a scholar in here and get those fishing boats out as fast as possible, which is really going to help him out. And for somebody who, I just recently played a Delhi game on water, I didn't know this tech existed, so I'm learning something today.
It is extremely powerful. It essentially makes your scholar have efficient production and function as a mosque at the same time, while the scholar's garrison in the mosque. The only trouble with it is that the scholar has to walk all the way out here and garrison in it, and it's really powerful on large water maps where there's going to be lots of deep sea fish and you plan on making lots of different different kinds of ships for a long period of time. But when you're only going to make 5 ships, 3 of them are already out, and then the pond's going to dry up. I mean, I don't know how much use we'll get to see of it here in this game. Obviously, it's free. It's a Delhi tech, so there's no harm in researching it, but I don't know if we'll really get to see it used to its full potential here on Dry River.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, probably one of the reasons why he queued it in the first place is because he was done making ships. And it looks like, based on the meta here, we have 3 boats on either side, and it looks like for fishing ships they just go for 3. Because like you said, that having that short-term reward, you don't want to spend too many resources out here getting these fish, because once this dock, or this part of the river dries up, like you said, these fishing boats are useless and people just end up deleting them. On this east side, however, for GUA, going up with the Council Hall, it looks like his build a little bit more refined for the English, going to go up a little bit quicker, get those long bowmen out, and Avely going up with the Dome of the Faith on the west side. Now, how do you feel about the Dome of the Faith changes that we saw?
I think they're really good, actually, because you boost the popularity of the Dome of the Faith, as well as makes mosques more valuable by allowing you to garrison 5 of them in at once. what that does, it doesn't seem like a particularly effective, um, like change, but it allows the Delhi in the very early game to save, I think 150 wood. I think is what a moss costs, or sorry, 100 wood. And that 100 wood means that they're earlier able to drop down barracks, military production buildings, those sorts of things. And so it gives them a much needed early game buff because Delhi very much had a like a power spike in Castle Age. And if you hit them too early or you drag it out too late, they were absolutely useless. So I think a lot of the changes that went into balancing the Delhi landmark going into season 4 was how do we make them like useful outside of that Castle Age power spike? And so I think the change to the Dome of the Faith is really centered around doing that, making you more able to deal with feudal aggression. And speaking of feudal aggression, we've got these longbowmen perched right outside the Delhi base, going to try and keep this villager from constructing the stable he wanted to build.
And he is going to have to move it over here. Avely is trying to get some horsemen out to try to combat GUA's longbowmen, and will queue out a horseman pretty much simultaneously. But look at what GUA is also doing on the western side. GUA added an outpost right in front of these 4 Delhi fishing boats with arrow slits appropriately getting researched. So these fishing boats are going to have some problems, along with some longbowmen that were coming out here, and a second dock for GUA. He's trying to get as many spots on the river as he humanly can.
Yeah, and that is also going to kind of squeeze control of the middle and this pond that Avely had thrown up all away from him all at once, which means Avely going to lose out on some of the early investment he wanted to make. 2 of these shoreline fish now completely unavailable. So you're going to run out of those quote-unquote extra villagers a little earlier than you thought you were going to. And on top of that, you're losing control of the middle right in front of your base, which just feels bad. So the English, we see them more and more being played aggressively early on. Aussie Drongo released a video a couple days ago calling them, or maybe yesterday, calling them the new Mongols. And you can see that play style being played right here. We've got the outpost, we've got the harassment, and we've got the forward barracks trying to get some spearmen out to continue putting on pressure.
And also for Dark Age, because the Mongols do such a good job at denying docks on Dark Age, the English do have access to Vanguard men-at-arms. So in theory, they could do it better. So maybe English does end up being the new Dark Age superior, and I know we see that a lot on Canal, which is another EGC map. If there's an English versus Mongols, the English usually does a pretty good job. Avely on the northeastern side, trying to get a little bit of damage on this dock as well, having some horsemen back here, but GUA correctly with his barracks, adding some spearmen, and with an army comp that's particularly only those mobile horsemen for Avely, just having those couple spearmen is going to really help him out.
Yeah, the decision to go into horsemen here kind of builds itself because the English are going to want to build longbowmen, horsemen, the obvious counter to that. So you have to be careful about playing around the spearmen, though, and Avely microwing to perfection, making sure you drag away these low-health horsemen, and thanks to the fact that you get scholars naturally and early as the Delhi Sultanate, you're going to be able to heal those up, get them back into the fight. So these can be really cost-effective units if you micro them away from the spearmen when they're low health, exactly like Avely's doing. I love the way that he's playing this as time goes on. And the fact that he's floating as many resources as he is tells me I think he might be interested in heading up to Castle early. Obviously, GUA, no desire to do that whatsoever. He's, right near the ground in his resource count. But Avely floating so much food, I can't help but feel like that's got to be his plan.
Yeah, and that very well can be. That's actually a good point by you, because the Delhi Sultanate do have some good units against the English in feudal. Just their ability to make as many units as they can keep up with the council hall. But if the Delhi Sultanate does get up to Castle Age, they will have the ability to get men-at-arms, which is going to be really good against GUA's English build of just spearmen and longbowmen. So that could be his idea, but he lost a lot of villagers on that wood line over there on the eastern side of his base. Worker count kill for GUA is 3, with a total economy count 39 to 28 in favor of GUA, and I think it's just because he was able to stop a lot of that fishing from occurring from Avely.
There's also, I sense a little bit of indecision in Avely's build right here, because we've got Sanctity coming in. It's going to be the first upgrade that gets researched. But if you don't have map control to take the sacred sites, that's a useless tech. What you want is efficient production, and that's going to be coming in next, but it's got another minute 34 before it comes out. And you can't help but feel like if we were able to double the speed of these military production buildings with some scholars, you'd feel a lot better about being able to get more troops in. But you can also sense that Avely's trying to head up to castle as fast as possible, almost doing so, we use this term, a semi-fast castle, because he barely produced any military and immediately sent himself up to castle. He's got all of his villagers and production buildings huddled right underneath his town center because he's not really trying to keep GUA from taking map control away. He just wants to get up to castle as fast as he can and, play the game from there. But I just, I don't know. I can't help but feel like you're sacrificing a lot to get up to castle this early, and I'm not sure what you're gaining from it. That's so important.
Yeah, and I mean, he's kind of operating under the assumption that if he does get to castle, he will win the game. So he'll take whatever problems are arising in feudal age because he knows in castle age he'll be able to fix it. However, Avely is having the trouble of actually getting there. We have 1,600 food and 300 gold. That gold mine, GUA does realize that he does not have enough for castle right now. Puts an outpost right there next to that gold mine, making Avely go all the way to this western gold mine. And if those longbowmen see this gold mine and all of those gold villagers, this could be a very quick game over.
Yeah, because you bet if you're Avely, you put all your cards in making it up to castle, and now you have 16 villagers completely idle, running in circles, trying to find some safe gold to take so they can get there. And in the meantime, GiveUAnxiety has more army, it's more powerful, and he's not that far behind in the race to castle. If he chose to, he could idle out his production and make it up right behind Avely, and he hasn't lost nearly what it's cost Avely to make it up to castle so quick.
And I think that's the plan that GUA actually has. You hit the nail right on the head, and that's more. I've said that more than once throughout this stream. So on GUA's side, on the eastern side, he's putting 8 villagers on gold to get the 600 gold to get him up there, and then the fish hopefully help him in the food department. Notice he's not making any more military. Now Avely does have this one sacred site over on the north. The sneaky scholar went up there, so he is going to get a little bit of gold, and he also found this big gold vein all the way down on the south side of his base, but again, super exposed if they manage to find it.
So Avely finally, at last, will make it up to castle age at 12 minutes. This isn't even a fast castle at this point. That was the intent with the build, but he ended up being so delayed that this is just a normal castle age time at this point. And in return, you've lost villager lives, a ton of mining time, a couple buildings, a blacksmith got burned down, and most of your map control. And so Avely's going to need something big to happen in Castle Age in order to turn this thing around. He's going up with the compound of the defender, which is a huge deal because he will be able to throw down keeps for cheap and get lots of villagers out of them using the village fortresses tech. So that's a big deal if he can make it to that point. And I think that was his game plan all along, was get to castle, outscale the English by having lots of cheap keeps that also produce villagers, and try and play for the late game. But he's lost a lot in the short term trying to get there. We'll have to see if it pays off for him in the long term.
And more importantly, this short term, perfect foreshadowing at about the 13.5 minute. There's 5 fishing boats over here on where the compound of the defender is over the western side, and there's no more fish over there. So he's gonna need to find a way to get some food income somewhere, because a lot of these Castle Age units that he needs take a decent amount of food, and it looks like a second staple is gonna get dropped for Avely, so he's probably looking for more so in the night department, which is 140 food. You're not going to be able to get that many of them if you don't have a good food income. And it looks like Avely's trying his best to find some, and did find stone over here all the way on the south side. Maybe his sneaky keep might be happening.
Yeah, this is tough because what essentially is happening here, for all my peeps with siblings out there, this is like when you played tag as a kid and you'd go, Mom's base, and you just sit there standing next to your mom because Mom was base and couldn't be tagged. But now you're stuck next to Mom all day, or you're gonna get tagged. That's where Avely's at right now. He can't leave to take food. He can't move his military out, or they all die. He is stuck under the radius of this town center because if he steps a toe out of line, everything dies.
And there's so many resources that GUA is doing such a good job of denying. He can't get to this wood line. He can't get to those berries. Like, these villagers have to go all the way out in Narnia, essentially, to gather any shred of resources because his base is completely controlled by GUA. And also notice, no outposts are even needed. He keeps trying to get some up, but they haven't been able to do so. Avely going for knights in Castle Age, which is, to me, it's a rather peculiar decision because GUA still has spears. Like, you're going to need a decent amount of knights to stop this.
Yeah, it's not an insignificant amount of spears either. There's 16 of them with plenty more on the way. GUA also heading up to Castle Age any second now. Needs about 30 seconds more worth of food and he'll be on his way up. So he's going to get those spears. Could be veteran spearmen any second now. You're going to need a lot of Lancers in order to do anything about that. And I honestly think GUA could end the game pretty quickly here. I don't even think he needs Castle Age. I think he needs Siege Engineering. You drop 3 battering rams and you end this right now.
Yeah, I think just based on military count, you're probably right. That military count at 49 to 15 chooses to go against your advice, goes for King's Palace all the way here on the eastern side. Avely trying to get some villager raids and did get a couple over here on the east side where these deer are. GUA choosing not to go with too many farms as the English, just because he does have the fishing boats there, but now that they are running out, he's got to find food somewhere else. But when this King's Palace goes up, Avely's going to realize that he does not have enough stone to make a lot of keeps to get his villager count high enough to the point where it makes a substantial impact, and GUA might be able to just run him over in castle.
He is going to get 1 keep up at the bottom part of his base here, and I don't know if it'll be denied. It might be, but that is at least one, quote-unquote town center that can get thrown up. He sees that there are some enemies prowling around that area, so he's going to throw it up right underneath this outpost, in fact, so GUA can see that it's happening. But I can't help, I mean, we've been harping on Avely quite a lot in this game. I want to just point something out. I feel like the King's Palace is a bit of a mistake here from GUA as well, because you're playing into what the Delhi player wants. The Delhi player wants to drag this late. He wants to get lots of keeps up so that he can get back into this game. If you throw down a white tower, you do it right outside Avely's base and use it to produce tons of siege, you can just push him and end this right now. And I have to feel like that's a better choice than doing essentially what the Delhi player wants, just playing into the long term here. As Avely does have a few different Lancers that are pushed around to the right side of GUA's base and are raiding villagers. He's trying to drag this out and make it go late.
Honestly,
Sorry,
I love... No, you're okay. I love your enthusiasm with the white tower. Just drop it in his face, dude. Like, imagine not being able to not get these keeps up just because you have a glowing white tower just shining at you and raining down hell with all of these arrows. And speaking of hell, Avely is continuing to be confined in his base. These berries, again, continuing to be unsafe. It seems like Avely does so much work to try to get villager kills on GUA's side, and all GUA does is just walk his army over into Avely's base and just even the score.
Yeah, exactly. And we got buffs in the most recent patch to the White Tower as well. It produces siege units, including battering rams, and it does so at double speed. And so, you're trying to get these villager kills and play this game that GiveUAnxiety is playing here, which is like, well, I'm going to slow down my opponent by getting bill kills, and I'll speed myself up by getting the King's Palace, and I'll outscale him, and I'll make it longer. Just kill him, man. I mean, he's so weak. He's huddled underneath this town center. Just build some siege workshops and crush everything he has to the ground. You have to know he has no army at this point. You've explored enough of the map. You know that if he had anything worth being afraid of, he would have sent it at you already. What GiveUAnxiety is trying to do is he's trying to choke the life out of Avely very slowly. When Avely's so weak at this point, a knockout punch would do it. A big haymaker to the chin, and he's done.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. I appreciate what GUA is trying to do. And it looks like, on this west side, I think he's doing a good job of that. These production buildings that are right in front of the town center doesn't care about the town center at all just because there's no villagers there anymore. He was able to suffocate this base out. While Avely on the south side trying to get cheeky and dropped a keep over here near some of the farmland of GUA and adding outposts as well. So this farmland needed to be vacated. It just seems like both of these players against each other are just trying to be annoying without necessarily driving that knockout punch.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. Both of these players are just being obnoxious right now. They're not trying to kill each other. This keep at the bottom just says, "Hey, look at me! Look at me! I did something. Come pay attention to me. Come fight me. Come do something about it, so I can last longer and survive and get my keeps up and play the game." That's all this is. All you have to do is ignore it, and you get the win here.
Yeah, I mean, look at what's happening with all of these keeps that drop down now for Avely. We have one on the south side. We have one in his base, of course. We have another one getting built near the stone mines so he can make even more keeps. And you're going to watch this economic count for Avely start to skyrocket, even though he's had so many worker kills. At the point where Avely's rating that he's done on some of these villagers is going to make more of an impact if this game decides to continue, because we see with these keeps that villagers were being produced out of them, and another keep going up in front of the hometown center of Avely. So he's just trying to I mean, he's just trying to stay alive. You can't help him. You can't fault him for doing that.
This is such a strange game. I almost feel like I'm being punked. Like, are these guys in the stream right now and they're listening to me and just trying to... Are they trying to tilt me? I don't know. A Siege Workshop finally does get thrown down by GiveUAnxiety. It's going to be a Trebuchet coming out. So I guess he does want to end this game at some point. Finally going to be rolling those out, presumably to take down these keeps and knock down the remaining landmarks that are here. What I want to know, does GiveUAnxiety have line of sight on this compound of the defender? Does he know that it's here?
He does.
Okay.
Yeah. Back before, this was a few minutes back before, he had a decent amount of spearmen and longbowmen. He took down this dock and he started sieging down this compound to about half health, and then he ran away.
Okay, so he knows that it's here. Yeah. You have the army. You have the trebuchets. I mean, I don't even think you need trebuchets. Maybe for the main town center because it's surrounded by a couple of keeps, but send 3 or 4 knights over to this compound of the defender and it should be dead.
And, you know, actually, I think a lot of this might be a little bit of unfamiliarity with what he's playing against. You know, I mean, playing as the Delhi, now that you have village fortresses as quickly as you do and you're able to pump them all out and all that kind of stuff, it just makes it a point where the Delhi does have a little bit of a comeback mechanic where they never did before. The village fortresses was a tech that took way too long. It was never actually developed for a lot of these players, and they never ended up getting it. Now that it does have the ability to continue to be used, as we see economic count, Avely taking the lead here, and he's rebuilding his production. So there is a comeback opportunity for Avely if he chooses to take it.
Dude, if Avely wins this game in like 20 minutes time because GiveUAnxiety just wouldn't finish him off, I'm going to be so tilted.
Yeah, I mean, it's very frustrating, and GUA is trying to get the siege to take down these keeps, and did so successfully with the southern keep of Avely, and now these 3 trebuchets looking for more keeps to try to take control of it. Also, GUA doing good in terms of getting a win condition under control as the second sacred site being taken by GUA, and we'll be able to take this southern one actually with relative ease. So it'll put Avely on a clock for that comeback mechanism, which is going to help GUA probably close this game out.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of tactic might work in Age of Empires 2, where you can just keep throwing up bases in the corner and kind of try and cockroach your way to a win. But you got to remember that in Age of Empires 4, there are only 3 landmarks. You kill them and you win.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that it's gone on this long.
And I think the problem is how defended these landmarks actually are for Avely. Now there's a couple keeps around these town center and the Dome of the Faith, so you just need those trebs, and they're bumbling and stumbling their way over around this dry river, trying to get to those keeps, which is one of the things that the English does surprisingly well to do their English creep. They drop their own keeps, they put trebs behind it, and they start taking them down. And I'm assuming what GUA will be doing is exactly that with these trebuchets finally deciding to unpack. On Avely's side, he is not ready to do his comeback mechanism. He just dropped a couple barracks. There's a siege workshop trying to pump out springolds, which probably won't be long for this earth because he doesn't have any military to protect them. So these keeps are going to go down quicker than they were built.
Yeah, 3 trebuchets will take this down extremely quickly, especially, I'd love to see just a couple villagers come out here, drop an outpost, get network of castles onto these trebuchets as well, they fire even faster. But instead, we're gonna charge our spearmen right under the castle fire. Okay, that's a tactic. I don't know if it's a good one, but it's a tactic.
Yeah, I mean, it's an idea. For sure. And, I mean, there's a decent amount of stone around for GUA. If he wanted to drop keeping in his own network of castles, that would be pretty beneficial to him. But I think he's just, could be that he's just bored of this. You know, doesn't really want to put the effort in, just goes ahead and trying to end this game as quickly as possible. And with these keeps, that eastern one almost down. Still not down yet, though.
No, we'll pack him up. Okay. You scared me, kid.
And now with this trebuchet shot, we'll end up taking that keep down. That's a lot of stone from Avely, just trying to get rid of them. GUA has this little vanguard force of some men-at-arms. I don't think it's going to be quite enough. Really good against GUA's army comp. Only has a couple knights and a lot of spearmen, his own men-at-arms that don't have any blacksmith upgrades. So could be beneficial, but not so much. As we were watching that keep go down, however, though, look at the economic count. Avely's ahead. He's got 100 villagers just because of how many keeps he has.
I can't believe it's gotten this far. I mean, they're still. GiveUAnxiety can just push and kill what's left, but he instead wants to go kill these keeps. He wants to slow down his opponent. There's no way that you can't just kill these two landmarks here with the trebuchets while you take down. I mean, even 20 villagers up at this point, he still only has 9 military, does Avely, and there's nothing there to protect anything. I'm losing my mind, Tim.
And it's been so difficult for Avely trying to stabilize a little bit of food economy, and I think that's why we're not seeing the economy pay off quite yet. But this is a really good economic hub for Avely, this area with all of these farms and where this keep is. He's trying to get more stone over here on the east side. GUA has something to say about it, though, with this outpost that will most likely get some burning down. And actually, Avely does have enough and makes a keep of his own, so he's going to be able to preserve that stone and get even more of these things. And, man, I'm kind of tilted too, brother.
I said this a while ago, but are you sure we're not being punked? Like, this is ridiculous.
No, I'm actually not. I don't. Avely has all of these random bases over here on the south side. Couple barracks here, a little bit of idle villagers. They'll go to work eventually, but keep over here just continuing to produce villagers and a couple of barracks, and it looks like he was trying to get some kind of, you know, some back-end raid on GUA, but GUA walled appropriately, so he's unable to do that. But now Avely over here on the western side has a nice little siege portion of his own with 4 Springolds, which can pop a trebuchet if they all fire onto one of them. So this might make GUA kind of stand still a little bit.
I don't even know what to say at this point. I just feel like if we're watching, I don't know, some sort of clown fiesta. It feels like both players are not really interested in fighting each other. It feels like they both just want a Sim City, and GiveUAnxiety is kind of just like, hey, I'd really like to Sim City where you're Sim Citying, so can I move your stuff out of the way? Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, can I Sim City with you, bro? No? Okay.
Yeah,
Just
like
move.
if these guys could find a non-aggression pact, I think they would have done it already, because there seems to be no interest at all in finishing the game. They just want to continue to claim sacred sites and build buildings. More keeps in the corner. I mean, I guess at some point the stone has to run out, and these keeps will eventually die. But we might die of old age by that point.
And look at while you were talking about that, over there on the south side of Avely, this little proxy base that he has over the south side, 5 siege workshops, all of them pumping out battering rams.
No way.
Oh,
Okay, well,
GUA spots it.
Yeah, he spots it.
I think that was his last-ditch effort. He was going to go for some battering ram. I mean, the wood eco was pretty much the only thing that he had, but now GUA pulling the entire province of Great Britain. All of these villagers, about 47 of them, going to lay waste to all of these siege workshops.
Oh my goodness. It feels like they were goofing around for a while, and then Avely kind of took it too far. was like, hey, maybe I might win this. GiveUAnxiety had to put it back in its place, slap it back down, and say, no. I'm still gonna keep playing with you. I'm gonna have some more fun, but you're not actually going to win this. Let me just burn all these down really quick. He will get a handful of battering rams out, but with the size of GiveUAnxiety's army, I don't think there'll be enough to perform any kind of landmark snipe or anything like that. He'll get 3, maybe 4 out at most. Yeah, he doesn't even have any more in queue. He'll get 3 out at most. And that's not enough for a landmark snipe.
No, I mean, the only way it would have been beneficial to him was if it was a surprise. I think because of GUA's outposts here, they spotted out these siege workshops, Avely putting them a little bit too close. But now Sacred Victory is approaching. Avely is officially on a 10-minute clock, so he can hide behind his keeps no further. While multiple win. How many keeps do you think went down this game?
Like, we're built or we're destroyed?
Destroyed.
I mean, we can count that. 4? Looks like 4 have been destroyed so far.
Wow. That is a decent amount. And look at what GUA, he's a little bit more defensive than usual because he saw all those siege workshops. He doesn't know how much Avely really has back there in terms of, you know, how many battering rams he has. Goes with the Berkshire Palace and building it with 44 villagers, so it'll go up probably before I finish this sentence, and there it is. And that Berkshire Palace is going to help him get a little bit more vision, make sure his landmarks aren't going to get sniped, because GUA is thinking, okay, I have this game under control, how do I lose it? And if his landmarks get sniped, that would be a surefire way to lose. The Berkshire Palace is going to make sure it doesn't.
No, the real reason he's going up to H4 is just so he can get enclosures. That's what it's all about. He wants the gold long term, so he doesn't have to mine it. Other than that, he's fine. He's not even worried. He'll keep playing this game for another hour and a half if we let him.
Yep, and enclosures was instantly researched. So honestly, you might have a little bit of a point there. Now there's a south end base with this is essentially Avely's entire farm economy here, and I want to see how many villagers he has. About 45 on food. There's a decent amount of farms here. All of them will be taken down. It looks like GUA has focused himself essentially on the south side here.
Yeah, not long for this world is this southern base. All of the units that are nearby, plus the trebuchets, will mean that there's not a lot of opportunity for these villagers to gather much more. That said, Avely has nearly 8,000 gold, so he can buy the resources he needs for a little while if he felt like, you know, continuing to fight this. And it looks like he will do. He's continuing to build villagers. In fact, I think probably overbuild at this point. He really needs more villagers, or more military than he has.
Oh yeah, absolutely true. I think using a market to get some of that gold underway, and that's exactly what he does because he's trying to get up to Imperial. Gets about 2,700 and is going to build Palace of the Sultan. Let me see if I can actually find it. Here it is. And hopefully, before this game is over, even though there's 7 minutes left, we might be able to see a Sultan Elite Tower Dumbo.
Yes! I want to see the big boy. I want to see, that's what this was all about. That's why they wouldn't end the game. GiveUAnxiety just wants to see the giant elephant. That's what this has all been about this whole time.
As soon as I saw this thing having the ability to have Elite Tower Elephant, I thought of that meme of that car salesman where he slaps the top of the car. You just slap the top of the elephant and you think this baby can fit so many guns on it. And that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm calling you right now. We're going to see in the chat after the game is over. That's what this has all been about. They just wanted to see the big elephant boy. That's why they've dragged it out so long.
And we have about 3 minutes until we get there. So I'm not going to hold my breath for it.
Well,
but
you can speed that up. If it's in the radius of a mosque, the tower elephant's production time is sped up by nearby mosque influence. So
yeah, I think it is going to be a little late as we're watching these knights just slaughter all of these Delhi villagers and essentially evening the score for economic count. It's pretty surprising just because of how good Village Fortresses is as a technology. GUA has killed 83 workers and still only behind by 3.
Just now taking the lead again. after he had the lead and just spent it all goofing around. He will be back in the lead in terms of villagers now. At this point, though, we've spent so much time, you know, cutting and bleeding away all the villagers that the military count for Avely has actually reached parity with that of GiveUAnxiety. Amazing. At one point, I think the military count was something like 60-something to 2. We're now back at even.
Yep, and a lot of it ends up being siege, as there are a decent amount of mangonels and springles, which are not being helped by any kind of military unit whatsoever, so the knights will get the surround on them and the horsemen, and they're going to end up taking them out. But on the meantime, Southern Sacred Site by Avely actually got decapped, and looks like they are trying to continue our torture just a little bit further.
They never want to let us end this, do they? Yeah. We're going to be here for a very long time, I think. Lots of spears coming out. Going to make sure that this cavalry gets have to retreat for the time being. GiveUAnxiety not going to be able to stay for too much longer. And now, these trebuchets, for the first time all game, are actually under a little bit of threat. He's going to have to pack them up and move them back just a little bit. But a fresh wave of reinforcements arrives. These veteran spearmen really can't commit to killing the trebuchets just yet. So we continue with the game of whack-a-mole, where Avely puts up keeps and GiveUA destroys them.
Yeah, it's actually kind of astounding that those trebuchets haven't been popped yet by any springolds or anything. Avely left his anti-siege a little bit out there, but GiveUA taking this battle. There's a lot of actually feudal age archers and veteran spearmen up against elite knights that do have biology, and a keep going up for GiveUA over here on the south side. This is going to spell deep doom for Avely's, at least military count, for that matter. And this keep that was largely being supported for Avely ends up going down, so he's got to back up. On the flip side, on the north, we do have an elite tower elephant, which I did want to show in all its glory before this game ended.
Oh, Sultan's elite tower elephant. I want to see him get in there and kill some stuff. He's going to take a shot right now. Whoa! There he goes. Look at him. Look at him go. He's a monster.
Look at him. Now this is pod racing. Look at him all. Taking shots at him. Avely trying to get this keep up. We'll get it up in time just because of how many villagers that are there, but at what cost? As only 15 of them, do get ending up back. But this hand cannoneer, because of how many hand cannons are actually on it, pretty good in terms of DPS. If he does get a decent amount of them, a lot of these knights could be popped. The issue is how much time it actually takes to get them all. With 4 scholars in there, he's going to get another one out pretty quickly, but he's got a more immediate danger just knocking on his door.
Well, yeah, the trebuchets that were produced about 20 minutes ago continue to knock on the door and shoot down these keeps. We're now actually near the base of Avely somewhat, so if GiveUAnxiety does feel like finishing this game off, there is still the chance he could run in and kill a lot of these landmarks, because they are all pretty close by here. Going to be killing a lot of villagers underneath this keep as they try to repair it. They're all going to jump back inside. Keep still not going to be long for this world, as those trebuchets will continue to fire. I think this next volley will take it down. Yep, there it goes.
And Avely on this west side actually adding hand cannoneers on foot, not necessarily on a Dumbo, and actually making a lot of quick work. These elite tower elephants only have 600 health because they haven't gotten any upgrades, but look at the amount of English troops that are corpses now.
They're good. I mean, the town center fire and the other units nearby are helpful as well, especially these hand cannoneers, because they do very well against things like the knights and men-at-arms that were running in there. But even still, yeah, these Sultan Elite Tower Elephant are not something to be trifled with. They can mess you up.
Yeah, they absolutely can. And he's also adding war elephants on his own, just trying to get, looks like, as many Dumbos on the battlefield as possible. Can't really fault him for that. But raids going on so many sides. North end, some outposts going on for GiveUA, making sure Avely has to get out of this gold mine. Destroying more houses on this side, more bombard towers everywhere, which is apparently GiveUA's favorite defensive structure at this point. Can't blame him for that because of how good they are. And GiveUA, just based on economy right now, having 3,000 gold per minute, he can do this until the end of time. So with all of these units that go down, he really doesn't care.
Yeah, honestly, the first resource to run out of this map is probably going to be wood. If you look around, there's not too many major wood lines left in the game. So that, with food being infinite and gold being essentially infinite thanks to relics and sacred sites, the thing that brings this game to somewhat of a denouement may actually be wood running out. GiveUAnxiety is on basically no wood at the minute. Avely does have a respectable wood income, but it's not very much.
Yeah, I think the reason why GUA doesn't have anybody on wood right now is because he essentially doesn't need it. You know, he's just flooding knights over here. I think a lot of it is, I mean, obviously there's better units to make. You know, having things like crossbowmen could be very helpful against some of these tower elephants. Having things like spears could be helpful as well. But he has the economy to make all of these knights, so you might as well just flood him in there.
I guess if we're not actually trying to end the game, why not just spam produce knights and see what you can get in there? I suppose. But lots of these scholars that were removed now for healing, trying to get those Sultanly Tower elephants, now going to drop. Makes them all the more vulnerable because they're not able to be healed back up. And I think that will mean the end of these poor Dumbos relatively quickly here. Although they're so strong, they actually are still able to kill all the knights that can run in here.
Yeah, these things are like, I think a house has 750 HP that I just glossed over. These war elephants have 850, so they're just like walking houses that deal damage to you. And for how well they do against these elite knights with biology is pretty staggering, as you can see one go down rather quickly. But now we're back to where we were probably about 20 minutes ago. Military count 45-7 in favor of GUA, and Avely sending out all of the villagers to try to take down these trebs. And they might get them, but I would love to see those trebs going down 25 minutes ago. Turns out he does not get them, ends up tapping out, and GUA taking this one going into the next round.
At last, we reach a conclusion to this game, and it's not very satisfying, to be perfectly honest. We spent a lot of time waiting. There was no landmark snipe. He just taps out after realizing that this game was going nowhere. We can see the graphs. They don't mean much past the 20-minute mark because it was basically a farce at that point. But, well, that's the end of that one, I suppose. That's all I've got to say.
You're basically saying, yep, that was the thing that happened. And
yes.
We're going to move on.
Uh-huh. That was the thing that happened.
Overall, though, you know, fun game. I wasn't expecting, when picking Dry River, I wasn't expecting Dry River to have as long of a game as it did, but really, oh man, I think Delhi's the new cockroach, man. It has to be, because of village fortresses.
I suppose, but there's always, I mean, to some extent, yes, you're right. But at the end of the day, if you want to kill somebody, all of their landmarks are just sitting there. You can't cockroach forever when you can be eliminated by having all of your landmarks killed. So
right. Right.
Yeah.
It's not like Mongols where you can move them all, right?
Exactly.
But
we want to thank our MetaPlace website subscribers. Your contribution helps us keep the project sustainable. As we reach higher subscription goals, you are helping us cover more and more behind-the-scenes costs, such as video editing. Check out our subscription page using the link in the description, and remember to collect your perks. We will see you the next time.